What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfe Spurs Talk podcast. A lot has happened since the last time. We spoke on here. Defeat against AZ Alkmaar in that first leg. The draw against Bournemouth. And now we've got the AZ Alkmaar second leg at home coming up. So busy times at the club. And to talk through these busy times, because there is a lot to discuss, let's introduce today's excellent panel. Firstly, Lewis, thank you very much for joining us once again. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me on. How are you? I mean, I don't really ask how
No,
you are often.
no, I'm very good, thank you. Appreciate you asking, and thanks for coming on once again. Should be a good one tonight. I mean, as I said, there is an awful lot to discuss. Alfie, thank you very much for joining us this evening. How you doing?
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like every time I'm on, we seem to lose, but got a bit of a bad reputation, I think. But I guess that's pretty common, pretty likely this season, actually, with the way results are going. But yeah, good to be on. Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. I can assure you it's not you. A lot of guests do say the same, though. I think that's Spurs view this season. Jack, thank you very much for coming on. I believe your debut on the
Yes.
podcast, long overdue. How you doing, my friend?
No, pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for making our videos over on the channel predictions possible, Harry. And I'm looking forward to this one. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you very much for coming on. If you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. If you're listening after on a podcast platform, please do drop us a follow and a 5-star review if you enjoy what you're hearing and if you're new. And do check out our sponsor in the Kitman. Tell you what, before we get into Bournemouth, I think if we quickly touch on that first leg against Alkmaar, look back at that, considering last podcast was before that. Lewis, I mean, it wasn't good, was it? It was a poor performance, I think, on the night.
Pretty traumatizing to watch. I mean, I won't say it was hard tonight. It was pretty awful because I mean, I think we probably all would be in agreement that was probably one, if not the biggest game of our season. Really, I mean, our season rides on these two games, or the one that's coming up on Thursday. So to put in a performance like that was pretty. It was hard. It was hard to watch, and it's like you have to ask yourself, like, this is the biggest game of our season, and honestly, you play like that. It's pretty. It's just demoralizing, really, to see. And like, I mean, now there's even more pressure on us for this Thursday's game as well. Which, I mean, after the last two performances, I don't know if that's a good thing to increase the pressure load, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, 100%. No, thank you very much. I mean, Jack, it was proper disappointing, wasn't it?
I think it was. I think it was. We've had a lot of quote unquote biggest games of the season. And I think that was definitely going to be one of them. And it was probably one of the biggest disappointments, in terms of the actual performance, probably even more poor than I think we even played against Liverpool, in that massive game, or even the Aston Villa game was also an absolute shocker, in terms of the FA Cup. But this one might have felt like even more of kind of a punch in the gut, just because kind of felt like, AZ should be our level, a team that we should be able to not necessarily destroy or anything like that, but we got completely outplayed. And probably touch on it further, but I mean, the fact that we're actually only 1-0 down, is actually a bit of a good fortune for us. So that's how poor the performance was, that AZ definitely deserved more than that. And just biggest game of the season, another big letdown, unfortunately.
Yeah, well said. Totally with you on that. Alfie, do you agree with Jack that, we're just lucky and fortunate that it only is 1-0, because it could have been so much more, couldn't it, at times in that game?
Yeah, definitely. I think the performance is the main issue that everyone's sort of annoyed about, and the fact that compiles it even more is we've seen this all before. This is not the first time we've seen a performance away in Europe that's been underwhelming in a big game. I mean, I can only really think of the Ajax and Man City game in that Champions League run of the last 10 years that we've done a really good performance away from home in the Europa League or Champions League. And yeah, it's becoming a bit of a worrying pattern for us at the moment. But luckily, it's fallen to us that we've earned the fact that the second leg is at home, and I'm pretty confident. Might be delusion, but confident that we'll be able to get more than one goal against them. And I mean, history shows of us this season, we tend to, if we beat teams, we beat them by a lot. I think it's once or twice we've beaten a team 1-0. If we're beating them, so yeah, I'm pretty confident. But as you said there, Jack, the performance is really a big let off, to be honest. To stay a respectable level on aggregate still.
Yeah, 100%. Lewis, who's who's to blame for that defeat? Is it on Ange, maybe the team selection, and not, a lot of fans saying that there was no structure, looked like there was no way of playing, or was it on the players and maybe lacking that leadership responsibility? We talk about, Alfie mentions there, our record away in Europe in particular recently. Does it come down to maybe a mentality thing?
Yeah, it could just be several factors. I think Ange probably did get it wrong maybe on the day. I mean, the players as well. I mean, the players just didn't really rise to the occasion. I mean, I think they all full well knew how big the game was as well, and they just didn't look up for it. I mean, I love to sit there and say the quality of players that we had on our on our 11 is so much more than the quality of players on their 11, which believe it to be. But I mean, it still looked like they didn't really care, to be honest, half the time. And the AZ Alkmaar players were so up for it. They wanted it. I mean, you could see them in the way they were playing, the mannerisms from their side. They knew that they had us on the ropes a lot during that game, and they were really up for it. But we just didn't really. We had no reply. I mean, I know the goal that they scored was, I mean, it was an own goal, but I mean, they could have easily scored 3 or 4 from on their own back. I mean, Troy Parrott missed the goal, missed like a sitter once. So, I mean, Ange as well. It didn't really. I mean, I love Ange, but it's hard when we're getting battered and he's sitting there like just not really. Looks like he's not really interested. And I bet all of us are screaming on our TVs and show how much we care about it. So I mean, it's pretty. It's hard sometimes,
100%. Jack, yeah, what do you make of that kind of performance? And do you agree with the guys in terms of maybe a better, bigger team, and we could have been in real trouble based on the way we played and just how open we are?
100%. I think AZ are probably shooting themselves in the foot, or maybe kind of digging at themselves right now for the fact that they're wasted so many opportunities. Like Vicario absolutely kept us in it. I think he pulled off at least 2 world-class saves in order to keep us in the match, to be honest, especially that one against Troy Parrott, the one-on-one. Did so well to read him there. And if Troy Parrott scores that, I just think, they could have probably ran away with it. The crowd clearly were very much behind them. They were just expecting, I think, a lot of these to go in the back of the net. And luckily they didn't. And, thankfully we didn't, then see the game get totally away from us. In terms of your question earlier to Lewis, in terms of whose fault it is, I think at the beginning, you have to look at the leadership group. Like Sonny just didn't look like couldn't be asked to make a run behind, couldn't ask to, sort of try anything, be brave. I could say the same of other players like Madison as well. It just felt like Madison wasn't necessarily doing as much as you would expect from what's supposed to be a top level number 10 in the Premier League, especially against a team like that. And then there were other players like Brendan Johnson, who for some reason, again, just sort of relies only on chances being created for him instead of him being able to create anything for anybody else. But where I think then it starts to fall on Ange is once the game started getting away from us and once it started getting away from him, he took off players that he probably shouldn't have. I don't think he should have taken off Madison. I think Madison was our best chance of probably getting back into the game or at least getting something from it. And then he kept on Brendan Johnson for nearly, I think, the entire match, if I'm not mistaken, right? And that was someone who I felt like was contributing nothing to that game for the majority of the time. And also as well, wasn't contributing anything defensively, in my opinion, to help track back, help out, his defenders and whatnot. So there are actually some maybe questionable kind of in-game decision-making from Ange Postecoglou, especially when it comes to substitutions. It's been a thing with him where plenty of games he just seems to either wait too long to make a change or the changes he makes are actually the wrong ones to be making in the team. So I think it started out, with the leadership group just not stepping up for a big game like that, clearly being intimidated, not motivating each other and realizing the importance of the game. But then I think you have to start asking questions of Ange after that, kind of in the second half of just, the fact that Spurs just weren't really kicking on.
No, we had plenty of time, didn't we, to get back into the game? We didn't. So totally agree with you. Got a comment in the YouTube chat that says we're allowing teams with only 39% possession to have 17 shots on our goal, and it's only because these teams are not finishing their chances. Do you agree with that, Alfie? And do you think that the players have to take responsibility, the ones on the pitch? I mean, Jack mentions their leadership. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I think the leadership's a big issue. I think it has been since the start of the season. I was surprised that we didn't. I mean, the position that I sort of earmark as the one you can have the most ceiling for is the sixth position in the team. I think we're crying out for a six ever since the start of the season. I'm surprised we didn't go and invest in one. You can go and invest in a 26, 27-year-old right now, or sorry, in the summer, who can nurture Archie Gray into that position. And we can buy someone for once who is available and a ready-made player now. And I'd go out and buy a leader as well. I know they're hard to go and get, It's a finite amount, but there'll be one out there. There's multiple leaders that you can go and get in the transfer market, and at the moment it looks like we need to go and buy one because we can't have someone from within. I think the biggest leader is Kulusevski, perhaps Vicario, but neither of those are in the leadership group that we apparently have. Son is a leader by example, not a leader as in a captain, in my opinion. And I think, yeah, someone like Kulusevski wasn't around for the AZ game and the Bournemouth game. I think those are both our probably two of our most gutless performances of the season. And I don't think it's a massive coincidence. I think he offers a lot in terms of holding the ball up and offering us a sense of calm, but also in sense of his leadership. If you go to the games, if you watch Kulusevski, he's one always hounding everyone together. He's getting even the more experienced players, like Basuma's 29, and he's having to be told by Vicario yesterday and Kulusevski earlier in the season what to do. And when you don't have a proper leadership, the minute something goes AWOL, you're fighting against you're going against a mountain. Then you've got a mountain to climb after that. And yeah, as someone said, we let some. I think AZ had 38% possession, but at the moment our possession is just so wasteful. We're sloppy with the ball, and we might be able to go and get it back quite quickly. We're quite compact to get the ball back, but there's no point in having the ball if you're not doing anything with it. And that's the biggest difference at the moment. The players that start the season would be able to do something like sharply, and they had direction with the football. But now it looks like the players are a bit idealist. And I think that's why we're having 60+% possession each game. And it feels like we're coming away from it by having no chances, which doesn't typically happen in football matches. That's why teams like Man City go to have so much possession, because they want to have the ball to manufacture chances. And at the moment, that's not happening. And I think it's a combination of things. But I think the biggest issue at the club at the moment, especially for the rest of the season, if we're going to go and win something like the Europa League, is the leadership group. That needs to be sorted quickly. And someone like Vicario and Kulusevski need to just be fit, and they're our best chance of leading some sort of motivation through a group of players that look pretty unmotivated even in the biggest games.
Yeah, totally agree with you. No, thank you very much, Alfie. Moving on to Bournemouth now. So to run through our lineup before the game, for people who didn't see it, was Vicario, Porro, Romero, Danso, Spence. That's the back line. Basuma, Benton, Coronsara in midfield. Then Johnson, Solanke, and Odebear up front. Our substitutes were Kinski, Adogi, Van der Ven, Gray, Bergevall, Madison, Tell, Son, and Scarlett. Lewis, what were your thoughts when this team was announced? Obviously, the big one being Romero back in the lineup. Were you happy to see that?
I was happy to see it, but about 5 minutes in, I was probably humbled for seeing that. I mean, after what I kind of witnessed, but I mean, I didn't mind the lineup. I thought it was interesting picks there. I just think that midfield, I could have told you then, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that the lack of creativity in that midfield, I mean, we all knew it. I think it's the main thing we all saw. I think we all kind of knew from that point that the next 90 minutes was probably going to be a little bit painful to see. That's when we had the ball. I mean, interesting choices there. I mean, I actually am starting to firmly believe that Jed Spence is better on the left. I don't know why, but I mean, he just seems more confident there. I mean, I said it from the start in pre-season. I thought the season could be big for him, and I mean, that's happy that I'm right. But I mean, on the left, I didn't expect that. But I think front three was also a bit. I mean, I don't know if that front three is just. I mean, Odebear was the only one who's looking to create chances. Really, I mean, Brennan Johnson is. I mean, I like Johnson a lot, but he just can't create anything, can he? I think it's been said that he relied on other people. I mean, Solanke had a pretty tough job yesterday. I mean, I think he held up the ball pretty well, but I mean, he just didn't really have any service. That's what that team lacked. It lacked service and lacked creativity. And I mean, the first 45 was very evident of that.
100%. Jack, any surprises in there for you with the team or the bench?
Not particularly. Like, I know some people wanted to see Archie Gray in the midfield for that game. I can see the logic in that, but at this stage of the season where these games are absolutely important for, whatever hope that we can have, of finishing off the season strongly or with some sort of positive, and also even for Ange Postecoglou's job, right? Archie Gray, I just think, hasn't really been given that chance yet, and Ange has seemed quite reluctant actually to give him any opportunities really in the midfield. So that was one that I know a lot of fans were upset by, but I wasn't really that let down or anything by that, just because Archie Gray, I just don't think, if he hasn't been given a chance yet in midfield, like, he's not going to be getting a chance in some of the biggest games of the season that are there. So that was one of the big ones. The rest of the team, like I could see why, some people felt like, oh, there's not enough creativity in the team, aka, Madison being left out. I understand that. We would like to have seen probably more creativity in the starting 11. Personally, though, I think that's more of an indictment or, something said about Brennan Johnson, right? The wingers are supposed to be the creative players. The wingers are supposed to be the ones that can pick up the ball, drive at their fullbacks, drive at their defenders, create space, create chaos. And the fact that we're looking at a front three of Odegaard, Solanke, Johnson, and then we're complaining about there not being enough creativity, I think that says more about the fact that we just don't expect any creativity from a right winger. Right wingers should be able to create, but some said that, the midfield was a little bit, dull in terms of the creativity. I could sort of get behind that, but I don't know. I wasn't really that surprised by actually some of the decisions by Ange, really.
All right, thank you. And I mean, Johnson's been mentioned a couple of times tonight. And we'll get on to the game a little bit later and general player performances. But with Johnson, I totally agree with all of you. And like Lewis says, I personally really like him, but he doesn't do enough for himself. And if you look at that first goal, I mean, we'll get onto it, as I said, but the Bournemouth score, and don't get me wrong, it is solely on Porro. It's really poor from him. But Johnson makes it so much harder unnecessarily for Porro by there's just no movement there. So Porro's waiting to release that pass. Whereas Johnson, as well, I think he's quite a lazy player defensively and has to do more. But Alfie, would you say that, on the bench we had more depth as well? And were you surprised to see the likes of Maddison and Son, I suppose, being that depth and being on that bench?
Yeah, I think Son starting from the bench is a welcome change, really. Odegaard, I thought did really well, as it's been mentioned before. He's been one of our best players in the last few games. He offers something in terms of driving at players, in terms of creating something. A team that lacked creativity, he really stuck out as someone that was trying to create that. As everyone's mentioned, my concerns were I sort of looked to the defence. I thought that's all right. Forward line wasn't any surprises apart from the Son being dropped, and then the midfield. I was like, I'm worried about that. There is a strange thing. I don't think we have had even given an explanation for it by Postecoglou yet for his Maddison decisions. It must be, in my mind, there must be sort of an agreement with Maddison that he can't really handle the heavy game flow of 2 a week, especially Europa League, because it's been really strange where he plays a game and then he doesn't play the next one. I'm not quite sure why he's been dipped in and out of the squad. I don't think it's going to help his momentum. I don't think it's going to help the game flow. I think it's a strange sort of period we're going through with him.
Was it to do his performances? Because I thought he was, he went missing Thursday. Not the only one, of course, but is it performance-wise, you think?
Yeah, I think perhaps maybe he was trying to sort of bring him in line after Thursday. That, as you said, he didn't really offer anything, and that free kick was enough to bring him off alone. But there has been games previously that this has been going on for about 3 months. There's been games previously where he did a great game midweek. I can't remember the actual game it was, but he had a great game. I think against Hoffenheim, and then the weekend he got dropped, and I was just surprised. There is something going on there. I think my assumption is it's on Maddison's fitness's behalf, because I can't see why Andrew would be dropping him every single week when there's 2 games a week. There must be some sort of routine to it. But in terms of midfield, I've just looked back at the Bournemouth away game, and the first half, if you remember, we got overran. We were 1-0 down at half time, and we were, again, a bit like the AZ game, we were lucky to just be 1-0 down. And I think we got over on a little bit of midfield there. They've got very good players that sort of drop in and out of the midfield, like Semenyo and Clive, was causing us a lot of problems. And we've seen, I think it was against Aston Villa and West Ham, that he used Pape Matar Sarr as his sort of wild card, that he can cover loads and loads of ground and just offer something a little bit that the rest of the midfield doesn't. So my thoughts were that he was going to pack out the midfield for the first half, just get a solid base, and then bring on the flair players like Bergvall, Maddison in the second half, which he did, because he brought on Bergvall, I think at half time, wasn't it? He brought on Bergvall straight away and then tried to go a bit more attacking. But at that point, it was a bit late. And I think Andrew's got this perception of being not very tactically astute. And I think he was almost too much for his own good there. It's the first time that I saw him do an outwardly tactical move to make the midfield all nice and compact and non-attacking. And it sort of backfired, because Bournemouth going 1-0 up in the first half played right into their hands. And we were always fighting an uphill battle when the second one went in as well. So I mean, there's consolation of turning it around from 2-0, but I think, as he's going to say later, I think most of us will be in agreement that turning that around was a little bit of luck and a big slice of fortune, really.
Can I add something, Harry? You
Of
could
course
make the
you can.
case that Bentancur maybe shouldn't have started because I believe Bentancur picked up that yellow card against AZ, which means he's not going to be able to play on Thursday night. So
Yeah.
technically, if you wanted to use the Bournemouth game as a preparation for the AZ game on Thursday, you shouldn't really want to play Bentancur because he's not going to be available. So you'd rather go with a version of the midfield that you might play on Thursday night to give them that familiarity with each other, that cohesion with each other. But by playing Bentancur, kind of, I think, disrupting that to some degree. So you could say that might have been a mistake or maybe even unnecessary from Ange because you should probably go with the midfield that you're going to play on Thursday night.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're right, and Lewis said it earlier, and I think he's absolutely spot on. I think we knew as fans when we saw that team sheet, that midfield three, that where's the creativity going to come from? That's the first thing I said to my dad at the time when the lineup come up. Where's this creativity going to come from? Where are the goals going to come from? Who's going to supply Solanke? And I think a lot of Spurs fans felt that way. And I think that as the game went on, I think that just showed. I think Ange realised that at half time. Credit to him for making the changes. I think they had the impact, which we'll get on to, but he was probably too little too late, and he got the original selection wrong. But on to the goals in the action itself. 42nd minute was the first goal of the game that went to Bournemouth just for half time through Marcus Tavernier. So let's play the goal to remind people of it. Lewis, I mean, it is poor from Porro, isn't it? But can you understand where I'm coming from about Brennan Johnson? If you watch it back there, he just kind of is static, doesn't move towards the ball, and it's a poor pass from Porro, but he's not interested in A, tracking back, B, trying to regain the ball, and I just think plays into the hands of Bournemouth there.
Yeah, I think both players on that right-hand side I mean, that's both of them really. I mean, Brennan Johnson's not coming to the ball. I mean, he's waiting for the ball to come to him. I mean, that's the issue. That's the first issue of that. He's not making the effort. I mean, the pass from Porro in the first place, yeah, I mean, it wasn't great. But I mean, Brennan Johnson is just not, even when the ball was lost, Brennan Johnson's not made an effort to try and track back. He's not made an effort to even at least try to stick a challenge in, to recover. He just thought, sod that. I mean, that's not on me. And then Pedro Porro just has all the work to do. But I mean, it's very poor from both of them. But I mean, it's just brilliant from Kirkez as well. I mean, he's obviously eyeing up that Liverpool contract, and he probably did well yesterday. So good on him, to be fair. But I mean, even when the cross has left his foot, though, I mean, you can obviously question mark the defence as well. I mean, I hate to say it, but Jed Spence kind of did leave his mark there at the back stick, which was pretty hard to see. I mean, he could have done a lot better in that situation, as well as Danzo. I mean, Danzo jumped and just completely missed the ball. So I mean, there's errors from at least probably 4 players on that pitch leading to that goal. I mean, we can obviously single out that no one stopped the cross, no one made effort to disband Kirkez from the ball. But when the ball left his foot, I mean, there's still 2 people who could have said anything about that goal, in Danzo and Jed Spence, and both of them just didn't have anything to say to it. So I mean, it's just collective fault, I think.
100%. Alfie, it was poor, wasn't it? Whatever way you look at it, and it just feels like a bit of a gift to Bournemouth.
Yeah, I mean, the wastefulness from Porro is just made even worse by the fact they go and score the other end. I mean, that happened twice, I think, where Porro sort of broke away and you thought we were going to score, and he just gave the ball away. And it is frustrating at the moment. And he's played so much football. That's the only reason I can think that he's just been really, really poor as of late. Because I do like him as a player, and I think he actually does care quite a lot. Out of all the players, that some of them don't perhaps show as much passion, but I think he does care a lot. But him caring doesn't make up for mistakes like that frequently have happened throughout this season. He's had a lot of criticism about his defensive abilities, but he's causing errors from the forward line as well now, which is getting more and more frustrating. And yeah, as you mentioned, then it is Spence a little bit. I mean, everyone doesn't want to really. He's the golden child at the moment because he's the one shining light in this squad. But that is a lot of that can go on Jed Spence as a man that completely sneaks in behind him and blindsides him and scores the goal. I mean, if he tracks his man, there's not a goal there, and he typically is quite good at just nicking the ball around the attacker and just getting it out for a corner. We've seen him do it a lot in the last few weeks. But that he's at fault as well. As I said, there's a multiple errors, but the goal is a lot of credit to Kirkez. I mean, that ball is just unbelievable, and it's something that Porro perhaps should be doing on the right. He typically can do that, but if he did it as consistently as Kirkez did, we'd have an incredible player on our hands. So it's just frustrating. It's just a lot of individual errors that just breed errors, I think, within football. And at the moment, we're giving away way too many of them. The confidence is low. And yeah, I think everyone just pointed the finger straight at Porro, even though Spence lost his man. As soon as that goal went in, everyone's angle was directed at Porro. And as much understanding, like the players are just so low on confidence, and you can just see it. The way they're not picking up their man, then they're not helping themselves at this point as well. So just frustrating, really. Another sort of a goal that could have easily been prevented, and perhaps we would have even scored. Who knows if Porro could pass the ball where we all wanted it to go. So yeah, it's just
Indeed.
frustrating.
Very frustrating. Thank you, Alfie. And it's just one of those where you have to go, okay, it's so poor from us, an unnecessary gift, but credit Bournemouth. There's a lot of class about that goal. Jack, is that how you feel? But also, is it concerning just how open we are like for that goal? I mean, one poor pass and, goes through. I know football, it's the way it's played, especially this modern era, but, how quickly it goes from one end of the pitch to another. Not only that, but we just looked so exposed, didn't we, from one pass that went wrong.
Yeah, I think that's usually, can be made about Ange's system and just the defensive shape. I'm not too sure if that's, in my opinion, the best example of it because, like, brought up by Lewis and brought up by Alfie, such a poor pass from Pedro Porro. I actually agree that maybe Johnson should be making a different type of run there to make it more dangerous for Bournemouth. But I mean, Porro had 3-4 players, I think to be able to play it to there, and he somehow turns it over there. Like it's just inexcusable, really, to turn over the ball in that position. And I think in any situation like that, any footballer, when you turn over the ball in that area, when you have that momentum going forward, people see and can sniff out, a goal scoring opportunity there. So you will see people driving forward. You will see people take that risk to try to, be on the end of something. And if you're turning it over all of a sudden that quickly, when everybody's momentum is going the opposite direction, going towards the Bournemouth goal, then all of a sudden, Kirkhesh just picks that up and everybody's flying forward. I think inevitably you're going to be, caught on the back foot and you're going to be caught all of a sudden, tracking back and, having to chase back towards your own goal. So really, I don't really know. Maybe the system, you could argue like you might be sending too many people forward in that situation, but really I think it falls more on Pedro Porro for just being careless with the ball, because anytime that you have an attack like that or a transition like that, you would expect lots of people to be flying forward, and you would expect there at least to be a shot on target or at least some sort of goal scoring opportunity kind of created from it. And somehow we turned it over and there was nothing actually made from it. And in that situation, I think you're always going to end up sort of seeing, the opposition sort of take advantage of that and end up, going back the other direction. So I'm not too sure if that's the best example of Ange's system, being too open at the back.
No, fair enough. Half-time, Bournemouth went into it with a 1-0 lead, and there were loud half-time boos. So it's going to play the clip here. Obviously, it was quickly drowned out by the speakers at half-time. Lois, what do you make of the whole idea of, booing at the players, I suppose, and, we're losing in that situation? What do you make of that? Is it what you want to see?
I mean, not really. I mean, if you're a player and at halftime and you've had a poor performance, or the team did a poor performance, and then the fans, the people you're trying to get on your side are going against you, I mean, that's not really. It kind of makes it could be a player thinking, why am I even doing this anymore? Like, you think the fans are just against us. Like, I mean, it's not a good situation to be in, really. I mean, it could be pretty demoralising as a player. I mean, you want the fans to be injecting like life into you, because we talk about the idea of having a 12th man in the fans that give a lot of the players' energy, the motivation to go forward. And if they're hearing boos at half time, and it doesn't really give them that sort of like lift that they need, I mean, it's not good. I can understand frustration. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that first 45 was bad. Like, it was, we played bad, and so I can understand why. I mean, to be honest, I've been to many games this season where boos have been had at half time. But I mean, that's not like the first prominent time it's happened. But I mean, it's just still just not really. It's just not great. It just shows. It just epitomises where we are as a club right now.
Yeah, a lot of fractures indeed. Thank you very much, Jack. I mean, it was a bad first half, wasn't it? Could you understand fans' frustration? I mean, a lot of them that would have been there would have travelled up to, Netherlands, just a couple of days ago to see the team not turn up, and then they'd be really frustrated in that first half. Again, coming back, again, spending more money on the club not to turn up. So you can understand where they're coming from.
I can understand where frustration comes from. I think, the nature of booing is just an opinion. I don't think there's right or wrong really about it personally. Uh, I just think fans have frustration, and there is a certain noise that then fans make when they are experiencing frustration, and that is the booing, noise that people make. It's quite common, I think, the entire world. It's a common across many sports. There's an American city, Philadelphia, that is actually quite notorious and even infamous for the fact that they boo on a regular occasion almost of all their sports teams, and they actually take pride in the fact that they are a team that boos their own team. So I think there is maybe sometimes a bit too much sensitivity to that type of thing. These people are being paid at the highest of level. They're in fact at the highest level of sport, and when you're at the highest level of sport, there will be criticism, and that's just what comes with it. We're not talking about an under 12s match or a little league game or anything like that. We're talking about professional football club that's close to losing 20 games in a season, and the fans are paying some of the highest ticket prices across Europe. There will be, expectation, and there will be pressure put on these players. If they just think that fans are just going to put on a blindfold and, forgive my, name, but sort of happy clap throughout, 20 losses in a season, I think you're mistaken. There will be frustration shown. And how are you going to do that? You're not going to send the players like a written testimony and a written opening statement of your frustration. You're going to express it in the form of noise and in the form of, I guess, the booing, sort of noise that people make. I think it can go both ways. I think at times it can be quite harsh. It can feel like, the fans are necessarily not behind you. But also, I mean, these fans are paying plenty of high ticket prices, traveling, hours away, to get there, taking time out of their weekend, also as well, having to travel back home. There are plenty of better things sometimes that they could be doing. And so if they feel like the players, the manager aren't really performing up to standard, or in fact, in some cases, not even trying, I think you got to kind of hold them accountable. It goes both ways. I think also as well, like these players and manager have called out the fans on numerous occasions for, not being good enough or not supporting them or whatnot. It goes both ways for me. Like, I think also you have to do your job and win games
Absolutely.
and give us something to believe in.
That's why I was annoyed with the likes of Madison and Vicario, because they don't clap the fans at all after that defeat against Alkmaar. And I don't see a problem in Vicario being frustrated, encouraging the fans to get behind the players. In fact, I think that's a good thing. But if you look very carefully, they don't clap the fans. And I just think that's poor, the lifestyle that they live and the situation that
They're well
Spurs
compensated
are in.
to receive a few boos at halftime. I think, we're not talking about,
I think
under
so.
17s, under 16s, sort of kids, where I think that would be quite harsh. Even just the other day, I was watching over in the state that I live in the US, there's like a state final sort of basketball game and whatnot. And believe me, these are like high school kids, 17, 18 years old. And the parents, even in the background, are like screaming at their own kids, to play better or to do better, criticisms, being shouted left and right. And this is, again, quite amateur level at the end of the day. But still, once, things are at somewhat of a decent level, somewhat of a decent expectation, people will put pressure on you if you're not performing to those levels. It's also sports at the end of the day. It's not that deep. I think a booing is not as deep as people think it is. It's just a sound of frustration, really.
No, it's completely different. So I think you're booing an individual off the pitch, etc. I think we've seen that maybe a little bit with Werner. I don't like that as much, but in terms of the team as a collective, I don't see a problem with it at all. I'm totally with you on that, Jack. But moving on to the second half, 52nd minute, Bournemouth had a goal disallowed, so it was a warning sign for us early in that second half. 61st minute, Van der Ven comes on for Romero. Lewis, it's great to have Romero back, isn't it? I asked you about that before the game. I mean, you mentioned his rustiness in that first 5 minutes. How do you think he done as the game went on?
I mean, he grew into it. He got a bit more confident maybe as time went on. But I mean, just still with Romero, he's just that, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's weird with Romero because I never thought. I mean, a lot of people think he's rash. I don't think he's rash in the way he played. I think he's quite. I mean, in the way maybe he's played this season, he's definitely like maybe lost it or maybe never rash in the first place. But with Romero is that he's a quality centre back when he wants to be, but sometimes I can see that he relies on Van der Ven a lot because Romero's Van der Ven gets Romero out of jail a lot. If you look at games we've had in the past, and I think we've realised as a fan base how much Van der Ven actually carries our defence at times, and Romero just never really does that. He's a decent centre back. Like, I mean, I'm not shaming him at all, but But I think he's a rather generic centre back in his style, and that he's not something you can. He's not a player in the way he plays that is hard to come across. But in the way I see Van der Ven's a 1 in a million. Like you'll never see this type of centre back. Maybe you'll be so hard to come across, and that's why I think Van der Ven's a lot more pivotal into the way we play, because we know with Ange how much it matters to have pace in your defence, and I think Van der Ven means a lot more than Romero does to our team. But I mean, I'm so happy to have him back. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying it's okay for him to be injured all season, because it's not. I do want to play. I do want to play him, but I just think he's not as pivotal to our team as maybe a lot of fans would say. I mean, it's pretty bad that I'm saying all this about him. He's literally my Twitter handle, but I mean, it's just fine.
Yeah, I was going to
I
say.
have to get on with it.
There we go. I suppose it's more valid coming from you in that case. So no, thank you. Alfie, what do you make of that? Do you think Van der Ven's more valuable to us? I think there's certainly logic to it, isn't there? The way that we play and the pace that we rely on with the back and how open we can be without Van der Ven.
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, perhaps is important level. Van der Ven's probably up there more than Romero is. I think they're a great partnership because of the way they both defend. I mean, Van der Ven can have a tendency to be a little bit clumsy, whereas Romero is probably the better 1v1 defender. I'd suggest. I know we saw how Van der Ven got done by Isaac last year, for example. They sort of complemented each other quite well. As he said, noticed that the Van der Ven pace sort of bails Romero out quite a few times. But I was really, really, really disappointed with his performance at the start of the game on Sunday. He came in and he got given the armband straight away, which I was initially quite surprised at. And they gave him the captaincy. If you look on the first goal, we actually have to have Vicario come out into the midfield to go and get the whole team together again, because Romero's just sort of stood there and sort of wanders around. And I think he's not helping himself now in the fact. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen his Instagram post after the game where he thanks just the Argentina national team for helping him get back from injury. It's all not helping to this idea that he's off in the summer. I mean, his contract's running down. He's got another year and a few months, I think. But it's just all not helping this idea that he doesn't really want to be there, because the way he played in the first half, he didn't really reflect that. He's not really. He used to be someone that created a sense of an atmosphere amongst the team. You'd watch him and you sort of feel inspired that this guy cares. This guy's going to lead us forward. That's why everyone invested so hard in Romero, and so many people loved him. But you're sort of seeing that drift away a little bit now, and he's not helping himself in the matter that come back from injury. He's straight away giving the ball away multiple times, and even things that are just sort of senseless. I get coming back from injury and you were not quite as sharp, but mentally you should just do the right thing. Like he looked up, I think, twice, and he put the ball into Basuma in the most difficult position you could possibly put him in. He had two men right around him straight away. I mean, Romero's not a silly player. He's a World Cup winning captain, a World Cup winning defender. He can find the right pass when he's come back from injury. That's just a lack of care, and that's a lack of mentally switching on, which is what I have the issue with him at the moment for. And if it came to it in terms of importance, like your initial question was, I would look towards keeping Van der Ven a lot more than I could look towards keeping Romero now.
If you keep Ange, I agree with you.
Yeah, I just think even though Romero might be the more established and higher quality defender in its purest form, Van der Ven offers a lot more for us as a team, and he just seems to want to be there a whole lot more, and that offers a lot more, especially when Romero is being captain and he's not offering anything at all. That speaks volumes, really, and he needs to step it up in the last few months of the season, because we've got a big few months on the table here. He could really step himself up, and he could be a hero amongst Spurs fans if he helps us lift the Europa League trophy come the end of the season. But at the moment, he's not reflecting any sort of desire to do anything like that.
No, that's true. That's true. And obviously, a lot of it, Argentina, I think fans do see a little bit of a problem with that, and in terms of maybe priorities. But no, I do totally agree with you. I think it's different if Spurs, as a club, decide to part ways with Ange in the summer. There's a serious possibility of that at the moment, because I think, again, he's maybe not quite as important with the way that we play. But I do see comments like this, and I've seen it in the YouTube. And I do think Romero is still disrespected among the fan base. David Clark says, I would sell Romero tomorrow if the window was open, sell him for 79 million and get a more dependable centre back. But what I would say to people like David Clark, who I like him coming in here, always gives reasonable thoughts, opinions at different side of things and perspectives. It's really interesting. But, he talks about ambition a lot that Spurs fans lack. I would say that he's fairly, lacking ambition to sit there and go, let's get rid of a World Cup winner for just 79 and look to bring someone else in. That's a thing that Levy and Spurs would do. I think, David, you're jumping on a bit of a bandwagon here with Romero, because if we're talking about in terms of class and overall who's a better defender and that, Romero's right up there. We hear Arsenal hype their centre backs a lot, but I wouldn't be too keen to swap either of our centre backs for theirs. I don't think I'm not saying I was a lot better. I wouldn't be something I would do first. There'd be other positions of that team that I'd be keen to swap, and I think that's credit to both our defenders. Certainly, as far as Romero is concerned, there's not many, if any, defenders I'd take over him. I know he's been frustrated. It's been a shame he's been out for so long, and it's maybe he's checked out. I don't know, but I still think he's up there. We're one of the best. So we see comments like that, and it's a shame.
Well said, Harry. Well said. I completely agree with you. I think Romero, it says a lot that if Real Madrid are so keen on signing him and actually did want to sign him over the summer, it's just, they can't spend that much money on Mbappe and spend that much money on other players and then also be able to get Romero. I think that would have just been a ridiculous transfer window for them. And the fact that Real Madrid want him and see him as sort of their future center back to help win them Champions Leagues and help be at the very, very top of the game, I think that suggests, how much, people do in fact rate him, whether Spurs fans rate him or not, doesn't matter. Clearly the best clubs in the world absolutely rate this guy. And also just in terms of his question of like motivation and loyalty to Spurs, if he really doesn't want to be here, then absolutely, I think we can have the conversation of like, maybe he does need to be sold. I'm not too sure if that's the case. I think people are mistaking the fact that this guy just wants to win games. I want to win games. I want to win trophies. And if we have a guy in the center back line that wants that and is capable of, holding people accountable. He's called out Daniel Levy. He as well as, said that I want to be here to try to win trophies. He said something even similar to Harry Kane, more in fact, like I will be here as long as I'm seeing signs of progress that we are headed in the right direction towards winning things. And I don't see a whole lot, wrong with that. In fact, I probably want more people around the club that are saying things like that instead of just happy to pick up their paycheck every week and just roll in, game out, losing games, right? I'd rather a guy that does take losing quite personally and does as well want to see this team progress in sort of the image that he wants. This guy clearly wants to win trophies and wants to be one of the very best center backs in the world. And I think that's a sign of a good player and a sign of a very motivated player. And I'd rather have more of those guys around. And then in terms of your assessment, Harry, I thought you had really good things to say on him. I think he's debatably one of the best passing center backs in the world. He had a very, very, very rusty game yesterday, so I'm not going to defend him for that. I thought he was actually quite awful in that first 45 minutes. But I do think that Romero actually has more in his locker than Van de Ven does. I think Van de Ven is blessed by having almost superpower sort of pace and speed and whatnot. I mean, his hamstrings
clumsiness, which Alfie says there's a little bit there that comes with the pace.
I mean, his hamstrings are probably worth like 40 million alone, Nicky Van de Ven. But apart from that, like I'd say Romero is a better passer of the ball, better in possession, can pick out passes that, great midfielders would pick out, from the back line. He's better.
He's a proven winner. Oh yeah, we lack leaders.
He's better
and
in the air
than
Mickey Van de Ven. He's a more aggressive defender than Mickey Van de Ven. I think he's plenty of attributes I can name that I could list off that I do think he has more than Mickey Van de Ven does. It's just that the injuries have been a question. And then also as well, maybe just the fact that if he really doesn't want to be here, then we probably do have to have a difficult conversation about whether we keep for the long run. But I really love Romero and I can't defend him either. I do think he's had a relatively poor season. And I do think that, even the last game was a huge sign of rustiness.
Yeah, totally agree.
But I agreed with you, man. I thought you had very good things to say there about him. It's nice to hear.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks. 65th minute, Bournemouth made it 2-0 through Evan Nilsson. Not long come back from injury. I think he was massive for them in this game. Let's play the goal first before we get into it. I'm really frustrated with the way we concede. Jack, I'll come back to you. Again, talk about being open. Has the midfield got to offer more protection there? Again, it's a simple pass that carves through that midfield, which, Danso, I think, does poor to step out. But he's got to step out because, no one in midfield is doing their job, really.
You're spot on, dude. You're absolutely spot on. I think Danso kind of, in a way, is put in a hard position there because the midfield is just not realizing the danger of, I forget who picks up that, and I think it might have been Ryan Christie or someone who picked up that initial pass, or maybe Kluivert picked up that pass in midfield. And he had time then to hurt us from that area. And I don't blame Danso for maybe thinking about stepping out to close down the danger. But then by doing that, you're giving more space in behind for someone like Evan Nielsen. I think you're spot on that the midfield needs to be better there. And I don't even know if it's tactical. I actually think it's more just on the midfielders, just not recognizing the danger in that situation. I think you're spot on, Harry.
Okay, thank you very much, Jack. Alfie, what did you make of that goal? Do you think we looked vulnerable all afternoon, that position, that turnover? Jack mentions there, Clive, Christie were getting a lot of joy, a lot of space on the ball as well.
Yeah, on the break they were very dangerous again, and I think they had one ruled out a matter of minutes before that, didn't they?
Yeah,
That was also on the break. I mean, it was quite far offside, so I do have some sort of sympathy for the back line when the player's getting a 5-yard head start on you. I can sort of forgive a little bit of that. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the goal, literally Vicario, Van der Ven, Danzo all turn around and put their arms out as if, like, where is the midfield? What are they doing? And yeah, I don't understand why again Basuma started the game. I think as a player, he's so clumsy and so lazy in terms of his positioning, in terms of his care on the ball. I mean, from the 15th to the 45th minute, I thought he had perhaps one of the better games he's had in recent months in the Spurs shirt. Then he comes out from the second half, and it just feels like we lose any sort of idea. And then we put someone like Bergvall on, and he doesn't offer perhaps something any defensive steal anyway because he's younger but we need someone else to step up and sort of assert themselves in that role. That there's, I think, Sarr and Bentancur are still on the pitch at that point. There, you've got a young player who's 19 in the midfield with you. Why isn't the Bentancur who's 26, 27? Why is he not seeing that perhaps he needs to be on to sit in a little bit deeper? He needs to offer a little bit of protection when we're being done again and again and again. You're having someone like Cliver just behind the striker who's literally had so much space in the ball so many times in that game. And it's not at that point, regardless of what the manager's telling you, senior players must take responsibility. And it's happened too many times that the players haven't done so. And I'm sure it's not slipped the idea of Anthony. I'm sure it's not got past the entire coaching staff that we're letting the number 10 have so much space in the middle. That's not something that would just slip everyone's consciences, and especially not the players who are on the pitch and could do that role. Bentancur might not be a natural six, but he can certainly pick up that sort of area, as you've mentioned before. Danda does have to step out, and it looks pretty bad because he gets spun and then they've scored. But he had to do that. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. What did he want to do? Stand still and let them have a free shot on goal?
Exactly.
Either way, he was down if he did, down if he didn't. And he's been put in that position again by the lack of midfield, which I think has perhaps been the root of the problems all season. We've had a lot of injuries, but no position area apart from centre back has been hit quite sporadically as midfield have. As you mentioned earlier in the pod, Jack, that we haven't really seen a midfield that's sort of solid and played together for like perhaps more than 3 games. I don't think you can mention to me a midfield other than perhaps Basuma, Madison, and Kulusevski at the start of the season when they were playing sort of a midfield three. They were trialing that out. Apart from that, we haven't seen a midfield three stick as one for a consistent amount of time, and it's sort of being found out now. If you have a lack of cohesion in the midfield, and if you have a lack of a unit in the midfield, you're going to get undone in the Premier League every single time, and it's the root of our problems again. That's why I'm keep banging on about this number 6 we to sign in the summer, and that's the first place I'd go to. As bad as Brennan Johnson might be, as bad as all these other players get criticism might be, the 6 is a consistent position that we've not replaced the likes of. Even when Eric Dyer, he offered something at least. He offered some sort of defensive stability back in 2017-18, that sort of era. I'm not even sure since then we've had a proper defensive midfielder that's offered us the steal that we need. And when we've got such a great attacking midfield, such as Madison, Kulusevski, Bergvall, why not unlock all those players if you can get a proper 6 that can unlock them? I don't know why we haven't done that yet. And the second goal on Sunday just proved all that right for me.
Yeah, I think that's really, really fair to say. So well said, Alfie. Next goal of the game, 67th minute. It was the Spurs goal coming through Pape Matar Sarr. So let's play the goal. Jamie Carragher sounds quite upset there that we thought of us getting back into the game. I didn't notice that first time around. Lewis, I mean, he can't read it, can he? Surely. Looks like a cross.
I don't think he means it, to be honest. I mean, I could watch it 500 times. I don't know. I mean, it's quite weird because the way the ball leaves his foot, it looks a little bit unnatural. Like, I actually don't understand this because it looked like before he had a scan. I don't know if he's scanning to see, all right, Solanke trying to find space in the box. Let me try and pick him out. Or if he has scanned and seen, all right, Kepa's a few yards off his line, I can have a go here. I don't know which one he is, but he's had a look up before the ball's left his foot, and he's had a little scan. Whether or not he means it or not, I have no idea. I mean, his reaction to the goal, I don't know if it's a bit like, oh, because he just stands there and he just smiles a little bit. So I don't know if it's like, I mean, if we were winning, I don't know if he'll be wheeling away, like trying to do a cartwheel. Oh my God, I've just scored the goal of the season. I mean, I don't know if the situation has meant him to do that reaction, or if that reaction is like, he's done it like PE football, he swung it in accidentally, it's gone in, and then he's looking around like, oh, I didn't mean that. I mean, I have no idea if he's meant that or not, but it was a good goal. I mean, I wouldn't be complaining, but I think he missed. I think he was like 4 or 5 yards out of goal, which is right in the middle of the goal, and he skewed it wide like 3 minutes before that went in. So I mean, I don't understand that. That is the biggest juxtaposition of a goal I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he can't even hit the target from a few yards out and does that. I mean, I don't think he meant it for that reason. I can't see him meaning it.
Spurs in it for you to a T. Don't make it do it the hard way. Alfie, I personally think that it's probably a really bad cross, but it looks great. So who cares, right? It goes in the back of the net. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I really hope it is a shot because that is an awful cross if it's a cross because the reason I think it might be a shot is because if you look, there's not even anyone near the back part. The ball he's trying to play, if you look on the replay,
Solanke,
it looks like
maybe.
yeah, but if it's to Solanke, that's a really, really, really poor cross. That's horrendous because that's going nowhere near him at all. It looks like he's trying to, if that's a cross, he's perhaps trying to put it towards the back post, but no one's there. So if it says across to Solanke, I hope it really was a shot because yeah, the alternative is
Yeah.
bad. But we need some sort of luck to get back into that game. The way we were playing, it was just sort of idealist, no sort of spark. I think even the crowd was starting to give up. When the second goal went in, I was sort of just sat there, slumped in my seat. I thought, this is the script again. This is happening again. We please just turn up for Thursday. But that goal sort of did spark the crowd a bit. We all got behind the team again, and it did sort of inspire sort of a mini comeback in the last 20, 30 minutes, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit of luck that was definitely welcomed by all the fans and definitely saw. And yeah, it's weird that they usually would ask him in an interview after. I'm not sure he hasn't done many interviews in English, so perhaps that's why.
No,
But
I
they
don't think he has.
haven't asked him. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think it was a cross. But wow, that was a bad cross.
I'm going to watch it back one more time and look at his reactions. Often you could tell from a player's reaction. Does he look up at Solanke? I didn't think. Oh, I don't know now. No, I see it back.
If you meant that, surely if you meant that you're knee sliding, I mean, even if you're 2-1
But
down,
you're 2-0 down though, right? You're 2-0 down.
I know.
You would look ridiculous if you went
If
for
I
it.
was
have a
2-1
smile on
down,
your
if I was
face,
2-1 down
though.
and scored that, I would be running to the corner and doing a knee slide. I mean, surely that is because if you meant that, that's a fantastic goal. That's a
He's
ridiculous
played it
goal.
cool, though, hasn't he? He's made it hard for us by
I think that's
playing the
because
way
he
he
didn't
has.
mean it, though. I think that's because he didn't mean it. Because if he's
He
playing it
doesn't
cool, then you
really look up at
it's so hard.
Solanke, which is interesting.
He plays his celebrations quite cool usually. Apart from the Man United goal at the start of last season, he
Yeah,
usually
he
does
went
that
mad.
one just for his Instagram photos. He just sort of
True.
jogs off to the side and does like a pose. He isn't really like that, I think. But if you look on the replay, he does sort of look up like he's not really looking at Solanke, unless
Not
he just completely got
really.
his
Looking
bearings
up at the
wrong.
fans, it almost looks like, to a degree. I'm in a very minority opinion by thinking it actually was, a shot, mostly because
Yeah.
Solanke is so far away from that cross. Like he really then overhits it, and he doesn't really even put any bend on it like you would from a cross in that situation. Like he really does sort of hit it, and it really dips really hard, over Kepa's head there. So if you were to rate Sarr's technical ability, then he's definitely hit that in a way that someone would try to disguise, a cross as a shot. And you do see that at that level. You do see players, attempt to make it look like it's a cross, but in fact, it is actually shot to try to catch the keeper out. And also, just before that, we know that Sarr had missed that massive chance that Madison had created for him, right? It was an absolute sitter, and he fired it, so far away from the goal that, in my opinion, maybe I wonder if he saw that sort of shot go, ablaze. And then he also saw Bergvall's shot just before that from distance go off the post. Maybe there was kind of a moment there where he was thinking, you know what, maybe let's just take another crack from distance and just see if this ends up working out. And the way he does it too, for me, is that he kind of takes, a scan initially. I think someone before me brought that up, but then later he sort of kind of pushes the ball out in front of him, sort of rolls it out in front of him as if you were going to take a shot, not really someone that would take a cross in that situation. And then, like brought up before, he's not really a guy to go overboard with the celebrations, and he's not like doing the hands up or anything like that, like we've seen from people before. Maybe if they didn't meant to, if they didn't mean it. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that in fact was sort of a shot, just because the nature in which he hits it really makes it look like to me that it was a shot, to be perfectly honest. And there was a bit of a theme that game. I remember Kirkesh, went for like sort of a disguised, cross, that ended up being a shot at Vicario that Vicario saved. There was another moment, I think from Bournemouth, where they tried to sort of catch Vicario out for the same thing. So I just wonder if there's maybe just a theme that day of, trying to catch the keepers out with some disguised crosses that were in fact shots on
He has
goal.
tried to do it before now, and now I think about it, he has tried to catch keeper on his line before. So,
and he likes a shot
who
from
knows?
distance, Pop Matasar.
He
So
does.
who's to say that he wasn't attempting it there? And like I said, just from earlier, Bergvall hit it off the post. Sar missed a huge sitter, so maybe he was feeling the frustration of having missed that goal.
Maybe.
And Solanke, I don't even think Solanke was in the box yet by the time that he even hit the cross. So that would be insane that he would have crossed it from there, because Solanke would never have even been close to it.
That's
So
true.
that's the way
Who
I see it.
knows? We probably never
It's
know.
probably actually the more fascinating debate of a goal we've had all year, just in general. Out of all the doom and gloom of this Spurs season,
Yeah.
I feel like you could have a real philosophical debate over this goal where there really is no right or wrong answer, towards it. It's actually
No.
quite nice.
In a way, you want to know the answer, but you don't at the same time, because
Yeah,
it'd probably be that it's a cross, and we don't want to hear that. Let it be a goal. Let Sal have his moment. Talking of having his moment, Son certainly did. 84th minute, where he won the penalty and converted to get it back to 2-2. So
Son with a salvage job sends Kepa the wrong way.
love that from Son. Again, Carragher sounds really downhearted. The Spurs have scored again because it's been a coincidence. So something he said after the game, it's the Spurs we're talking about. He said the other day. So I don't know. Some recent comments from Carragher are a bit suspicious, but it doesn't matter. They keep proving these pundits wrong. But what a calm finish from Son, Lewis. I mean, real composure, wasn't it? Panenka at a time where we desperately needed to score as well.
I'll be honest, I don't know if I like it or not, because I mean, I like it is really composed. It's just the problem I've got is that he passed it into net, which I don't know if I really like or I'm really against, because I mean, if Kepa, I mean, with penalties these days, the keepers always do seem to dive one way. They make up their mind before the players even step up. They just go, I'm going to dive this way, because with penalties now, you probably would expect a player to just pick their spot and just hammer it in. So I mean. So obviously he's dive, and there's a risk that Son had, a massive, massive risk that if Kepa just didn't dive and just, I mean, they rarely do this because they know if they debate about it and stay down the middle and there's speed and power on the ball, they ain't going to be able to save it. But if Kepa just maybe stayed down the middle for a second or so longer and just have a debate and see where he was going, that was such an easy save. So there's a lot of bottle for Son to do that. There's a lot of confidence that goes in. But I mean, it works. I mean, I don't mind the penalty, but I just think he could be a little bit lucky to get away with it, is all I'll say. Because I mean, Gary Lineker was talking about the penalty. I know he's saying loads about it, and he said that he did the exact same thing, and it was saved. I think when he played for England, and he said if it didn't go, and because it was saved, everyone slandered him and said it was the worst penalty they've ever seen in his life. But the key difference is because this one went in, everyone's raving about the penalty. I can kind of see where he's coming from, because it just looks so. It just looks so like he's not uninterested, but he's too comfortable. He's too like just not really interested. I don't know. If I had a penalty, I would just run up there and just wallop it and just smash it down the middle. To be honest, because I just think not having power in it is just a bit. It's just a bit. I think living life on the edge, and the keepers could easily just make up and recover from it.
Fair enough. Son ended his goal drought though of 9 games without a goal. Alfie, were you surprised to see Solanke not take it? It looked like he was going to at one point.
Yeah, I didn't know it was 9 games. God, I didn't realize it was that long. It's been
No,
a long season, isn't it? Yeah, I was surprised because he sort of stood over it first, and we had a conversation about it in the first half in the stands. That we had a penalty, like a mild penalty shout in the first half, and we were sort of saying who would actually take the penalty, and I was just like, oh, well, it'll be Solanke, and then obviously Son came on, and I think Solanke stood over it for a little bit, and I was sort of expecting him to take it, especially seeing as Son missed the first one. He took the most recent one he took, sorry. And it was quite a big miss. So I can't remember which game it was, but I remember we definitely, if he scored the penalty, the game would have been different result. Um, but yeah, I mean, as you sort of alluded to, I wasn't very happy with the way he took it. I mean, obviously it went in and that's fine, but I was especially surprised seeing as he missed the last one he took. It's quite an interesting uh, way to take it. I mean, he was sort of like adapting, like if you had to tick a box of how do you take the penalty, stutter, wait, Panenka, and he just ticked all of the above. He stuttered, stopped, waited, took about a minute before he took it. I mean, he was doing everything under the sun, it almost looked like. And eventually it went in. But wow, yeah, it was very nervy to watch. And I think he got very lucky that Kepa was definitely not on it that day. I mean, I don't know what the goalkeeper's doing, taking him down there. Whenever Son got on the ball, I don't know why he's flying out that far when Son was always going to get there before him. And then to put your arms out and just aimlessly try and grab the ball was a bit of a stupid move. And yeah, the funniest thing about that goal, I think, is if you look up, I think his name's Hudson, sort of runs over to the referee and tries to claim it's not a penalty, which is comical in itself. I don't know what he was even trying to ask for there, but yeah, I mean, I was surprised the way he took it. But Son is better off the bench. I think that's almost categorically true at this point. He looked a lot sharper off the bench on Sunday, and yeah, I much prefer him to see him off the bench, or if he'd probably be the twice the player he has been this season if he had half the amount of games, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I don't think we were in a position to do that. We certainly are now, though, and let's hope we can see that more. And I think it gets on. But you're right, it's getting more out of him that way. Lewis, did you believe at this point that we could go on and win the game? Also, we know we didn't, but was there that element of belief?
No, not really. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a blunt answer. It's just I thought it was too late. I genuinely thought it was too late. I mean, it always seems to happen when this, right? We go out and go 1 or 2 nil down, we get a goal, and then you go, oh well, we've left it a bit too late because we did. I think. I mean, 84th minute, the penalty when could have been about 10 minutes there. But I mean, to be honest, if you looked at us for those last 10 minutes, we were passing it around the back so casually, and I wasn't at this game. I know how you were, Harry, and I feel. I think there was quite a few times I heard it on the TV where we're just dallying around with the ball at the edge of our box, and there's fans cheering and get and go, like go run with the ball. Because generally, it's actually quite frustrating if you look back. If you just watch the last 10 minutes after that penalty, how many times we had the ball at the edge of our box or in our half, and we look so casual. There's no pace, there's no urgency about going forward to try and get a winner, and that's what the key. That's why I didn't really have much belief at the time. I mean, I had a little, but I'm just watching us. The time's ticking down. It's going, and there's just no urgency about getting forward. I was like, there's no way. If anything, I was probably more concerned about actually conceding than actually go. I generally thought wouldn't surprise me if we went on to lose the game, because I know Sky Sports chucked up a stat that said Bournemouth have the most amount of goals in the injury time. So I was like, okay, that's brilliant. Cheers for that. I mean, I generally thought we'd concede. I didn't think we'd go on and get a winner, to be honest.
No, nor did I. I thought I'd ask. You never know. With Spurs, we are, crazy team. But I thought put the question out there. But full time it did end Spurs 2, Bournemouth 2. Jack, what are your thoughts overall? Did we deserve to get that draw at the end?
Oh, it was an absolutely daylight robbery. Just because similar to maybe it's been like a trend in like the last 5 to 6 games or so. Not maybe in every single one, but for a few of them, where we could have been 2-0 down, 3-0 down inside 20-ish minutes or something. I mean, even the Ipswich game that we ended up winning 4-1, I felt like they could have scored, 2 or 3 goals in the first few minutes or so. And then same thing with AZ. AZ could have been plenty goals up inside the first half, and they weren't. This game felt similar. It felt like Bournemouth probably deserved to be more than 2 goals up, in this game. And I think his was a bit of a robbery, also just because I think they created far more chances and better chances than we ended up doing. So I'd say both teams were actually, funny enough, kind of guilty of gifting goals to the opposition. I think we did it with Pedro Porro's incident, which we discussed earlier. We also spoke about the midfield being exposed and our second goal, but then Kepa also gave us, kind of two gifts really with the Pop Matasar cross shot, whatever we want to call it, and then the penalty there. So it's kind of funny that both teams sort of contributed to each other's, kind of drop points to some extent. I don't think we deserved the draw, though. It felt like a robbery.
No, I agree with you. Alfie, do you feel the same? Bit of a robbery in the end?
Yeah, I think obviously we grew into the game a little bit. The last 20, 30 minutes felt that we could nick a win even.
Yeah.
I know we said we didn't have much hope, but I think the last 10 minutes we sort of had the momentum. But other than that, yeah, what a poor first 70 minutes that was. I think the performance is the real issue for fans at the moment. I think the results are even that important at this point. And I've seen a lot of fans say this is the least they care about a result in the Premier League. For years and years, I've heard fans of 20 years say this is the least they care about the results. And the performances just aren't helping it. The performances, if they were resembling something sort of the first 10 games of Ange Postecoglou's era, you'd be like, right, I fancy to go and take the Europa League with a scruff of the neck. I fancy us to have a charge in that. Our season can still mean something. But the performances in the league are just sort of so dull and boring and uninspiring that it's affecting our Europa League campaign as well, which is what we're sort of almost resting players and building up to. We're in a weird sort of environment at the moment where we're all looking forward to the Europa League, but there's no performance to help us look forward to it. It's weird. I'm just sort of hoping for some sort of reason, that I'm just gonna conjure up something from the players in this next few days to help them perform on Thursday how they have performed in moments throughout his reign. But that's all it's been at the moment, moments. And the majority of the games we're watching at the moment are just so poor and just lackluster that it's sort of killing hope amongst the fans. That you mentioned the booze earlier. That's why there's frustrations. No matter who you're going to be frustrated at, the board, the players, the manager. There's valid reasons for every single party to be annoyed at. That's why you're hearing the booze, and the performances aren't helping that one bit. So yeah, lucky to get a result because the result is some sort of consolation for a poor performance.
Yeah, I feel the same as you. Lewis, did Ange get it right with the subs? I think we both agree that, and along with the others, that probably got it wrong with the lineup, in particular that midfield balance. But did he, does he deserve credit for those substitutions? Maddison, that pass for Son's goals, the impact that Son had. I thought Van der Ven come on, still done well.
Yeah, I mean, you got subs right. I mean, I don't know if we could really. I mean, it's weird. I've always slightly been concerned about Ange's in-game management. I think he doesn't really, when it gets to the game itself, moments slip where he could, have a team talk like times where there's an injury or something. Or I mean, this is not belly in-game management, but I mean, when a player gets injured, I always point that Arteta gets all his players around him, starts doing a little team talk, and he just does none of that. I mean, and then it's substitutions as well. He's got many wrong, I think, over time. But I think he did well with in-game management. I think obviously there's always going to be managed with minutes with Romero, Van der Ven. They're never ever going to play full 90. So that's fair enough. I mean, Brennan Johnson, I mean, I hate to say it, he offered absolutely nothing. And so to take him off, it's very fair. I can understand that. I mean, Brennan Johnson, I think even against Ipswich, I don't get me wrong, he scored a brace against Ipswich, but I still think he had no impact on that game, apart from the 2 goals. And it happens a lot with Brennan Johnson, unfortunately. I think Burville made a good impact, one of our better players when he came on. I think one thing I will say, I know it was the 87th minute, so if I can criticise it, I mean, it'd be pretty harsh, but bringing off Pedro Porro in the 87th minute when you're trying to go for a winner and bring on a defender, I mean, I don't see that at all. I would have brought on maybe Matthias Tell or something like that. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just being really, really pedantic of me to try and critique an 87th minute sub. But I mean, at the end of the day, like Pedro Porro got absolutely roasted that game. Don't get me wrong. I think Pedro Porro had a pretty shocking game, and to take him off in the 87th minute when we're trying to go for a winner, I mean, I just didn't see that at all. Unless maybe he thought, all right, let me shore up the right hand side, make sure I don't concede. Maybe you're thinking that, I don't know.
No, I did think that, but I thought Spence was better personally on the right when that change was made. But it seems weird.
I don't know. I think the subs, he got the subs right. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think you can you can win game off subs, but I mean, I don't think you can rest the game on, okay, I'll start this team. I've got loads of subs to get me out of jail. I don't like that. I think I would rather go into a game play your best 11, go 3-0 up, then bring on subs to rest players, then go 2-0 down, bring on subs to get me out of jail. I need to chase the game. I would much rather the first option than the second option, because if we have now got a stacked bench where we've got loads of players that he can bring on, he's thinking, all right, this is my get out of jail free card. We're going to be chasing loads of games, and that's not good.
Yeah, that's a really good point you make. Before we get on to what Ange had to say, Son had to say, player performances, and move on eventually to RZ, I want to get the Bournemouth perspective now. So I want to thank Henry Chung, a Bournemouth content creator and presenter, for sending in his thoughts. Here's what he had to say.
That was a really frustrating result to take as a Bournemouth fan, to be honest. I thought we really deserved the win, and you guys really weren't that good. 2-2, we missed so many chances. We probably could have scored 6, honestly, with bad shots, bad finishing, which was one issue, but also the decision making in the final third was arguably the bigger issue. I mean, that Dango chance at the end, we should have scored, he should have shot, but he passed it to the wrong man. Even opportunities where we're passing left when we should have gone right, we should have scored a lot more than we did. But probably more annoyingly, the defence. I mean, those 2 goals to concede, awful. That Saar one, he definitely didn't mean it, and it's just such a fluky goal and annoying to concede that. People say Kepa's bad from range. I wouldn't blame him for that, because it's just, you don't even think he's going to shoot, but not ideal. More of the issue is Kepa's penalty. Again, it's like the Wolves one. It's just, he's overcommitted way too much. It's a silly mistake. He's been caught out massively, and if we're going to be pushing for Europe, we can't be giving away games with penalties like that. It was just such an unnecessary mistake, and Kepa's never going to save the penalty like that. But yeah, we did dominate. Shout outs to Milos Kerkez for his unbelievable, insane assist for Marcus Tavernier. Evan also coming back from injury was really big for us. He's now scored 2 and 2 back from injury, and I think he's going to be a big factor in this run at the end of the season. And I thought Tavernier was really good, which, again, back from injury, very good to hear. But generally, I do think like that harms our European chances now. What are we, 2 points above 10th, we're in 9th, but at the same time, we're like 2 points off. I mean, we're just 2 points behind Villa, I think, with a game in hand. We're not far off anyone, really, but this European push could swing either way. Anyone could get it, genuinely. The one thing I felt, we don't normally bottle leads under Iraola. I thought that was a problem under Gary O'Neill. Like we bottled a 2-0 lead to you under Gary O'Neill 2 years ago at our place. But under Iraola, that hadn't really seemed to happen, although we do have a problem with our play style of maintaining leads, whereas we play better when we're actually chasing the lead, chasing the game and try and get them back. That's where we thrived. So it is a bit of a concern that we can't hold a 2-0 lead against a side that, no offence, have been inferior to us this season, but we'll see. With respect to you, I thought Bergvall was very good when he came on. Probably should have started. I think Ange got the team selection a little bit wrong there. Brennan Johnson coming off at half time, didn't he? But really felt like you guys weren't very good at all, in my opinion. I thought we played off the park and should have won.
Fair enough. I appreciate the honesty nonetheless. Very brutal, but suppose that's the reality where both clubs are right now. Alfie, what did you make of Bournemouth in this game? Do you think it's fair to say they're wasteful? Because they did have lots of chances, didn't they?
Yeah, I thought they're impressive in the sense that they dominated the game for the first half, really. They were, perhaps wasteful in the final third, but their transitioning was outstanding. Perhaps one of the best I've seen come to White Hart Lane. Well, it's not Hotspur Lane now this season. They were very impressive in that sense. But yeah, they were wasteful in front of goal, which surprised me, seeming as they've been quite free scoring this season. I think they perhaps lacked a few of their players being on top form. Semenyo is someone I love to watch play. I think he's brilliant. He was really good against us in the reverse fixture, sorry. But he sort of went missing a little bit for them, and I think that perhaps let them down a bit because he's their real player of top quality in front of goal, perhaps. But yeah, they must be kicking themselves. The fact that game should have been done and dusted by the 60th minute. They probably should have had 3 or 4, not 2-0 up by then. And then the Kepa mistakes would have sort of not been any bearing on the match. So I think they're right to feel frustrated, as they mentioned there. They were waiting for the final third, but as a whole team and a unit, the way they were playing is, Iriola's a top manager, and everyone knows about it now. It's no longer a secret. He's top manager and they're a top team.
Yeah, no, I think that's really well said. Jack, would you like to see Areola at Spurs? If Ange, I don't know, leaves now, end of the season?
There are plenty of managers I would take. My biggest worry is that I just don't see what really incentivizes good managers that have good things going for them to come to Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. I mean, the writing's been on the wall for some time now that, you're likely to get sacked within a season or two. Fans will eventually turn on you, when things aren't going well, because plenty of fans know that it's more difficult to get rid of Daniel Levy than it is actually to get rid of the manager. The manager is something that you can just sort of get rid of and just see if you can get a new manager bounce. And you look at also the spending and the actual, sort of recruitment. Every single manager that we've had has complained about it or has felt like, they weren't really properly backed and supported what they needed in order to succeed. And I just don't really know what incentivizes, managers that are in the ascendancy to come to Spurs. The Iraolas of the world, the Inzagis of the world. Even look at the managers that we were linked with before we actually ended up signing Ange, right? We were linked with Thomas Tuchel, Nagelsmann, Jose Enrique, I believe, were the current PSG manager. And, we didn't get any of them. And we were told, or Arne Slot as well, we were told that they rejected us or they just, we turned our attention elsewhere. I don't think Spurs are an attractive proposition for high-class managers or managers that technically could go to plenty other clubs that do have a vague idea of what they're doing and where they're headed and what sort of expectations there are. So my worry is, as much as Iraola seems like maybe a good manager for Spurs, why would he want to leave what he's building at Bournemouth at this moment in time? And he has the potential to get them into the Europa League or get them into European football, which would etch him down in probably legendary status for that club, right? He would, be welcome there for the rest of his life, at that club if he got them there. And then after that, if he were to get a Bournemouth to European football, I would think, the Real Madrids of the world or even the top level clubs, Chelsea, plenty of decent teams, would definitely be calling his name. So Spurs would be pretty much last on your list, unfortunately. There are just so many things that if you're a good manager that has a plethora of choices to pick from, why on earth would you pick Tottenham Hotspur? Unless I guess you're like a Tottenham fan or something like that. So my big worry is, Harry, is that Iraola, plenty of the managers that we want or might be linked with, what's actually incentivizing them, what's actually attracting them to come to Tottenham. Tottenham has actually become a place where you're actually more likely to be made to look silly as a manager, to be made to look stupid as a manager, than you are really to have, sort of the backing and the support. It's just not a place to go if you really want to progress your career. I think it's a place to go if maybe you've actually taken a bit of a step back and then maybe want to go to a club like that to see if you can yourself, go into the legendary status and deliver trophies. But at this point, I think it's quite obvious that it's not an easy place to go.
Yeah, sad, but you're probably right, to be honest.
So
Lewis,
any of the managers that we're linked with this summer, I'm a little worried that we'll probably won't get any of them.
Yeah, I think we have to ask those questions. Are we as attractive as we were in the past?
Yeah.
The new stadium does help with that, but you don't get Europe, and that's a big thing you lose, and then you lose players like Romero, as we've spoken about. So I think you make a really good point, Jack. So thank you very much for that. Lewis, Kirkes, did he pass the test for you in terms of player you'd want in the summer? Again, it comes back to these similar conversations, but in an ideal world, is he a player we look at? I think I'm just thinking in my head, Kirkes and Spence as the fullbacks next year. That'd be amazing.
Sure, I love it, but he's going to Liverpool, unfortunately. I mean, I don't see that. I mean, Liverpool needs a new left back because Andrew Robertson is old, and I think he knows it. Liverpool know it. He's going to be at Liverpool at the end of the season. We can't compete with Liverpool, unfortunately. I mean, we won't offer enough money or anything like that. I mean, look, if he was auditioning for Ange Postecoglou, then he definitely passed. But I think he was auditioning for Arne Slot, and I think he'll be ending up at Anfield, unfortunately. So I mean, he passed the test if he wants to come, but I mean, at the end, I don't even know. I mean,
are we pay his wage? He's still going to come here. Liverpool pay him.
Yeah, are we still? I mean, I'm probably under the assumption I want to play a Doggy and Spence as my two fullbacks. I mean, Doggy hasn't had the best of seasons, but he's still really young, and he's still
Where
got
does
so much
Forest fit
time.
in for you? Do you see
He
Forest in
doesn't.
position or not at all? No?
I don't. I mean, look, I love Forest. He's great. He's a good player. I mean, he's a good player. I just defensively, he's just out of his depth in our system. I think I think if you look at Sporting played a 3-back where he was more of a wing back type of player who obviously had a lot more defensive coverage with an extra defender really there, and he had a lot more attacking output and a lot more chances, and his role was more of attacking role, which he's good at going forward. As an undeniable fact to me, he's better at Spencer going forward. It's just that in our system with our fullbacks, we need defensive stability because he got torn apart by Kluivert. I think that was on his side, and it showed. I mean, if that's the sort of fullback we've got, like it's just such open and wingers can just easily run at them, and he just does nothing about it. Then I can't see him playing. Unfortunately, I play him at right wing. Honestly, Brendan Johnson maybe out and play Pedro Porro at right wing, but I mean, I can't see him playing as a fullback. I mean, because Jed Spence has probably been our best fullback this season. I think David Clark said, and I'd agree with that. So I think it'd be pretty idiotic to not. I think Spence is undroppable, and I think if we're looking to Doggy to get more minutes, then I think Pedro Porro just has to be on the bench.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Let's hear now from Ange Postecoglou and what he had to say post-match. This was
It
interesting.
was a different kind of struggle for us today. I mean, Thursday night was just, there was nothing like us. Today, there was a different struggle. Bournemouth pressed really well. We were really sloppy with the ball at times. We just didn't take enough care with it, which allows them to sort of, pin you back, and didn't really allow us many opportunities to get, further up the field. So that made it difficult, but it wasn't anything like Thursday. It was a different kind of struggle today. But as I said, boys hung in there.
You mentioned that word sloppy. Sonny's been in and said the same thing. You're clearly a quality team. We've seen that at times this season. We know you've got quality players, some of which were back today. What do you put that down to, that sloppiness, and when you have those players on the pitch? Is it a nervousness? Is it something that exists around the whole club at this moment in time from the supporters downwards?
Again, I'm not going to comment on the whole club, but there's obviously a sense of nervousness there. There's, we're getting players back. We've been out for quite a while. Whether that's Dom or, it was brilliant to get Romero back out there today. But his first pass showed he hasn't played for 3 months. So we've got to bear those things in mind. But I think some of it is just that little bit of anxiety and nervousness, which we need to kind of get under control and stay calm in those moments. But they persevered, and for me, that's still something that I think shows that they've got belief in what we're doing.
Lewis, what do you make of what Ange had to say there?
I mean, look, he talks about it was a different kind of struggle to what Thursday was. I wanted to know what that struggle is because he didn't really explicitly go into this different struggle that we.
A few hints though about the atmosphere as well in other interviews.
I mean, he said he wouldn't comment about anything that's not his team. So I mean, this is such Pochettino. He said, "Oh, I'm just a coach." Pochettino in an interview, he said, "I'm just a coach. All I do is coach the players." This is the same mindset I'm getting now. Is that the manager will only comment or only talk about his coaching the players. I don't know. Maybe he wants more from the fans. I don't know. But it was a weird interview. Maybe I don't know. He talked about like sloppiness. I want to know what he wants to do about it though, because but we never really know what he does. He's a very maybe not private manager, but he rarely. Because we see in training, I think when he was at Celtic and see at Spurs, he has no real impact on training. He just observes, just watches. He never really shouts at them in training. And we never really see because he had minimal contact with the players. I think they barely really see him that much. He's just more of an observer manager than a getting into him sort of manager. Maybe he does at half time and pre-match, but I think their contact he has with the players is limited throughout the week. I mean, he's a bit of a weird character when it comes to interviews. I mean, he just never really lets you know. I mean, no one really does anymore with interviews. They try and be as secretive and as what's possible. I understand that. But I just wanted to know what he would do around these issues, the sloppiness, because, I mean, I think a lot of our fans, and probably me included, when we had this injury crisis, we was all like, okay, we'll wait for all of our players to get back. I'm sure we'll steady the boat. It kind of hasn't happened, and we can't really be blaming injuries anymore. I mean, now he's blaming anxieties, and he's blaming more
the fans.
Maybe he's blaming the fans. I mean, I don't know. I think he's saying the players are just like maybe a bit fearful. I mean, I want to know why that is. Why are we fearful? Why are we why on the ball are we a little bit shaky? I mean, I want to know that because I don't understand why. I mean, doesn't really make much sense to me. We've got our players back. We should be raring to go. Like all our players should be up for this now. That they can see around them that more players are getting back in fit. So I don't understand why it looks like we're going the other way.
Yeah, and I listened to his post-match reaction on the way home in the car with 5 Live, which was his first, I believe, media duty that he'd done after the game. Could be wrong about that, in the tunnel. And a couple of times he referenced the booing at half time, and he hinted towards that, and he talked about a difficult atmosphere, were his words. So I just I don't know. I heard him in the car, and he sounded like someone, and I haven't really said this to Dan's, but it sounds like a broken man, like he's given up. And I don't think that's him. I think he believes in the project. I think up until now, he's like, I can turn this around. Players will come back and win this. But I genuinely think, even despite the result, I think it just sounds to me demotivated. And again, questions appear about bigger problems in the club and what does he really mean? Because he's not going to say it. But it doesn't look good. I feel like it could be the beginning of the end. Alfie, do you feel that way? Also, I know that you are massively behind Postecoglou. You said that before, several times before, and backed it up with sufficient evidence and good reasoning. But how do you feel about that interview and just his job as a whole at the moment? How secure it is?
Yeah, obviously it's not secure at all. I mean, Thursday could really plunge him into some real danger if he doesn't go through. But yeah, in terms of him as our manager, I'm sort of less passionately behind him. I'm still of the belief that under the current ownership, there's not someone you can probably get in and get immediate success, sustained success with, unless it's a project manager akin to the person like Postecoglou is. Um, or Areola as well. That's why he'd be my first choice should Ange go. It's very hard. You need a very certain type of manager. We've seen that win now managers don't really work when they don't want to spend a certain amount of money, unless the board had completely changed their entire approach to the footballing side of things, which would be a shock
Can't see
horror
that.
after
Yeah.
almost 30 years. You need someone like Postecoglou who's willing to build certain players up from Udogie, who was a £20 million purchase, to someone now who's worth 40 million. Same with Van der Ven, bought for 40, probably worth 60. He's got quite a tendency to build these players up and sort of build a unit. He needs individual abilities and tendencies of players to sort of make his system work. And he hasn't got them, in my opinion. But that doesn't excuse some of the performances we've seen lately. What does sort of mediate it for me slightly is the fact that we have this mythical idea that the players have been injured, but we all think that they can come back and immediately be the person that they left being. Which we all, I mean, surely if anyone's ever played football and played any level of sport, I think at the human level, you understand that if you've been away for 3 months, like Romero has, when you come back physically, you're not going to be the same person as you were when you left
Good
because
point.
you need to get that sharpness, that match sharpness. I know I slated Romero earlier and said that his mental sharpness should be better than it was in that game, but there still is a level of mental sharpness and mental routine to get back into playing top level football. These aren't players that are playing down the local park. These are players in the top level. Romero's come back from a 3-month injury. Van der Ven's coming back from a 3-month injury. Solanke coming back from a 2-month injury. If you watch the game and you were at the game on the weekend, you could watch him and just see he's always someone who runs until the 120th minute if needs be, and he won't look tired. On the weekend, he looked really, really tired and out of it from the 70th minute. He didn't have any impact in the game when perhaps he could have because he was too tired by that point, and we started getting some momentum in the 70th minute. But his legs are gone at that point because he'd been out of the game for 2 months. These players are going to take time to come back and get sharpness levels back up. So we've got to just try and get through on Thursday because there's obviously a chance that the ability level goes up of the players and the overall performance level of the players. There is a ceiling to be reached, clearly. But the question now becomes your first question, Harry. Is the manager still believing in the product himself? Do the players still believe within him? Which I hope is yes, because there's still an opportunity to do something this season. But the evidence on the pitch is slowly going towards no. But yeah, I think it's just bearing in mind that players don't mythically become back and become the same players they were when they left. They need some time to get back to match sharpness. We saw this with Kane, with multiple players that were injury ridden at Spurs before. This is a typical thing that happens.
Yeah, good point, Alfie. Jack, do you think that Ange's lost the dressing room maybe?
That's the most confusing part, actually, about this all is I don't know if he necessarily has. I saw effort in the Bournemouth game. I think there was. I don't think many players were giving up on him or necessarily throwing him under the bus. Perhaps Sonny and Madison to a degree are. We've seen them kind of show a bit of petty attitudes about, when being taken off. And some people said even during the warm up, they were kind of goofing around and even pretending to fake injury or something like that, like some joke of that. So maybe there are some, factions in this or, in the squad that might not be fully behind him. But for the most part, I'm still seeing effort levels. And then that's what makes it confusing is that we're still very, very bad and we're not playing very well. And we do look pretty awful, but it's not down to necessarily effort levels from the players. It's just down to just them not being able to do the simple basics plenty of times. They're not able to put away chances, not able to even sometimes complete 2 to 3 passes. Basuma has the touch of a truck sometimes in midfield. These are very basic things that, aren't necessarily on the manager. But we've also spoken about plenty of things that are in Ange Postecoglou's control that he hasn't necessarily done well. So that is a confusing part for me, Harry. I don't really have an answer to it, but I don't think they are throwing him under the bus or anything yet, but they're not playing very well. So then a lot of that goes down to the players not being good enough, but then also the manager, not fixing things.
100%. Here's what Son had to say, though, after the game.
The 3 points, and obviously when you play home and you expect to get these 3 points, obviously Bournemouth are a really good side, and especially this season they've been outstanding. But still 2-2, I still feel like it's not good enough for us, and we just have to keep going.
You were very honest in midweek and said the performance wasn't acceptable. Did we see a hangover from that in the first half from Spurs?
No, I mean it's tough to say, but obviously Thursday was unacceptable. The performance and including everyone and players and everyone, and it was not good enough. And today as well, and in the first half, and we've been sloppy, and I wouldn't say it was a hangover, but it's still when you're down and your confidence is a little bit down, and you're just doing the things that normally you wouldn't do it, so you want to do extra and then make mistakes, and then it's happened. So we got to be strong as I said, and because it's a coming the massive game.
You've mentioned words there, sloppy and nervousness, anxiousness. We've seen the best of Spurs this year. Why are we seeing these moments, particularly from you as a team? Can you put it into perspective?
I mean, it's when your things are going well, everybody's playing with confidence. I mean, football it's a piece of paper, I think, with the confidence, without the confidence. And everybody has a quality in the play in the Premier League, but with the confidence, it makes a huge difference. And especially after Thursday, you think like, we got to do more, we got to do better, we have to do better. And obviously things are bit stressed, so but at this time you have to stay calm and you have to perform and do the basic things and do the simple things, and then we'll come out of tunnel. So but we can't make it complicate ourselves. So as I said, we have to just head down and look forwards and work hard.
That was Son there, what he had to say. I thought that was interesting. Jack, what do you make of that from Son? I think he speaks with all honesty, doesn't he? Whether you think he's a good captain or not, a good leader.
I think, what he said is not necessarily wrong. It's just that sometimes a lot of times with the players, I don't necessarily take a lot of what they say, to heart, or really with that much, salt, really, or whatever the phrase or expression is, just because so many times, in the beginning of the season, we've heard them say things like, oh, we're really trying this year to, push for trophies, and, we want to deliver success to the club. And then you see them on Thursday night, for example, Sonny, I didn't see him make one run in behind inside that first half, against AZ. And he also as well wasn't really trying anything with any real effort or bravery of any sort. And I could accuse a lot of the players of that on Thursday night. So plenty of times I do think that the players just sort of say things to maybe ease the tensions and just sort of say the right things. They are media trained at the end of the day. In fact, more media trained than Ange Postecoglou clearly is. And that's what I would say is I think Sonny said all the right things. Do I take any, grains of salt from it? Not really. I think it's just kind of classic sort of case of saying the right things, but are we going to actually see it manifest itself on the pitch? Probably not, because, they haven't done. Sorry to be negative about that. It's just we've seen this plenty of times before. In fact, what's maybe funny is I wish Ange, I think Ange opens cans of worms on himself all the time by being way too honest or simply just saying things I think are in fact wrong or petty or whatever you want to call it. And what Son has done there is I wish actually what Ange done, because Son sort of said all the right things, maybe also said some things without really saying anything, which I think is a real skill sometimes in the media as a manager. You're asked plenty of prodding questions, plenty of difficult questions, and sometimes it's just good to say something for 2 minutes without actually saying anything at all, really. And I think Sonny more or less did that. And I wish maybe Ange did that, because he probably would open less cans of worms on himself.
Certainly. You never know. It might change, but I do think he's not media trained for those post-match interviews. They do catch him out for sure. Before we move on to AZ Alkmaar, though, and that big game, that second leg coming this Thursday, I want to talk about Wilson Odobert. Alfie, how do you think he's done in the game? Would you say there's positive signs, but maybe more about a patient game with him?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him. Ever since he sort of came on in his first game, I think he started his first game for us really, and he was really really promising, and he clearly offers something. The thing that I think we've been crying out for on the wings is a 1v1 winger. We've had Son who does this thing this season and a bit of the last where he puts his foot on the ball and it kills the whole attack. It's so frustrating to watch because the Son of old never used to do that. He used to take his man on. He was sharp. He was quicker. He was more inventive. And he used to be everything that Odobert is now almost on the ball. Odobert sort of takes the ball and he's always looking to take on his man or progress the ball or manufacture some sort of chance, which is something that we need, especially when Johnson's the same as well. He's quite a limited. I would describe Johnson as a functional player. He fits the system very well, and often he'll just pop up at the back post or put that low driving cross in, and he can do them things very effectively. Whereas Odobert's sort of a good mix of both. I think he's sort of taking his man on, and he's sort of trying to push and offer something. And I think it was really noticeable, and especially in the first half against Bournemouth on the weekend. He just kept driving at the defence every time, and I love to see that as a player, and especially as a winger when we need someone like that trying to create something for us when the midfield is so void of creativity. So yeah, he's promising performance. And you forget how young he is because he's played so many games. He played obviously last season in the Premier League as well. He's only 19, I think, still. So you've still got so many years behind him. But he's definitely someone I'm, rooting for in the next few seasons. He has the capacity to develop into a big player for us, definitely.
Okay. Jack, do you like what you saw from Odobert?
I think Odobert is still quite a raw player, but I think he's actually what we've been crying out for all season, really, and especially what we probably accuse Brendan Johnson of not doing, which is taking on his fullback, creating space for others, essentially the basics of being a winger. Wingers, and I think modern football as well as also football, and maybe from years ago, decades ago, some of the basics really is, when you do pick up that ball, you're supposed to drive your team up the pitch. You're supposed to be technically good enough to not lose it straight away, have a good first touch, and then you face up your fullback and then drive at them and try to be brave enough to see if you can create space for others, play 1-2s, just be sort of a dynamic winger that can create space to put in a cross or create space to get into the penalty area. And once as a winger, you get past your man and you're into the penalty area, defenses do have to panic. They do have to adjust their shape. They have to come and close you down, which then all of a sudden could leave someone else open for you to be able to play. And I think Odobert does all those things. It's just that the final product or the end product with him sometimes can be left a bit wanting. He's had some moments maybe at the back post where he could have put away some chances, with some sitters. And then even I'd say sometimes when he does take it past his man, which he really has no problem doing, he tends to maybe pick out the cross maybe in the wrong way, or maybe does it, maybe doesn't necessarily know who he wants to pick out, or struggles to pick his head up and really pick out, someone in particular. But I really like Odobert because I think he does some of the basics as a winger better than pretty much the rest of our wingers have been doing. And sadly, that includes Sonny, like Alfie brought up before. And I think especially Brendan Johnson.
Yeah, definitely positive signs, but obviously not the finished article just yet. He's young, just come back from injury. So let's
I like
be
him a lot.
patient. Yeah, exactly that, 100%. But moving on to RZ now. Lewis, how are you feeling ahead of this one? Dare I ask?
Well, I have to be confident. I mean, our season rests on this one game. I mean, I hate to put pressure on it, but I mean, the players know it. I mean, this is the make or break for us. I mean, we all know that the season in the league is a write-off no matter what happens with the Europa League. But if this, Europa League doesn't like materialise, then this has got to be one of the worst seasons I've ever witnessed. I mean, I say that like it's. I mean, I say that like I've witnessed much better seasons, but I mean, I have. This is everything this season is on this 90 minutes of football that may go to extra time, so maybe 120 minutes actually. But I mean, we have to be hopeful. I mean, I don't want to sound like egotistical, but our squad has got a lot more quality than their squad. I think both teams know that. I mean,
Yeah.
it is how it is. I mean, we're a Premier League, Big Six Premier League club going up against someone. I think they're like 6th in the Dutch league. Like at the end of the day, this shouldn't. I'm not saying this would be a walkover, but at the end of the day, our quality far is superior to theirs. So this shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a mountain to climb at home. I mean, we beat them already at home. I think they're a much better team than they were when we actually played them. But at the end of the day, we should be winning this game. I mean, when we play at our best, we could beat anyone. I firmly believe that. So I think it's just about us being motivated. It's about being us being up for it. It's about Ange picking the right lineup, and it's about the fans in the stadium, because they know how monumental this game is to our season. And if all factors go our way, we could sweep this team 4-0 really.
Yeah, we should do. We have the quality. Jack, how are you feeling ahead of this one? Can we do it?
I had gone with David Harris, I had gone to the AC Milan home fixture where we were only 1-0 down on aggregate. But I will tell you this, like when I was there, I'm a Yank, I'm an American. I was very excited about being there. I was really looking forward to it. But the moment I even sort of got even close to the stadium and met up with people and whatnot, there was like this weird, eerie feeling that like, you know what, this team is not playing well. People are starting to ask questions of the manager. The players maybe potentially are starting to throw the manager under the bus. The tie was still well within our hands, but there was not a lot of confidence going into the game. And it feels very similar to that with this AZ fixture. Of course, AZ Alkmaar, definitely nowhere near as good as AC Milan, at any stage, but I'm getting similar vibes to this where I'm really not that confident. I'm also worried that Ange is going to pick the wrong team. I think the only reason he brought up Brennan Johnson at halftime was to reserve him for this game for Thursday. And I think Brennan Johnson would be the wrong player to play against AZ Alkmaar, who will look to sit behind the ball, play every guy behind the ball. And that just doesn't suit Johnson's game, really, in my opinion. And I know Ange will pick him. I'd probably put my house on it if I did have a house. And that's what I'll say. I'm not very confident just because I'm getting very similar eerie vibes to, the AC Milan game from years ago.
No, that's fair enough. Thank you for your honesty. But I just hope that Ange doesn't think. I don't think he will. But I hope he doesn't think about Fulham, because the league, it's not going to matter. It's just a case whether it's going to be embarrassing or not, whether it's going to be the bottom half or not. You've got to throw all our eggs in one basket here for the Europa League. We have to throw everything at it. There should be no, let's not take this risk. It's a short turnaround, which some fans already will start to suggest. So there shouldn't be any of that. We should go full strength without a doubt. This game matters so much.
Definitely.
So did last week in the first leg, and we disappointed. Please, Spurs actually turn up. Alfie, you said how you feel going into it. You're feeling confident. What would your lineup be for the game? Any changes from Bournemouth?
Yeah, I'd definitely change it from the weekend. I'd like to see a lot more creativity than the weekend. Obviously, the one goal disadvantage changed the whole dynamic of the game completely. I assume that, as mentioned, that AZ will probably try and sit back a little bit more, try and contain what they have. Which, I know the AC Milan game mentioned. I remember that AC Milan game. It's probably one of the most frustrated as a fan. One of the most frustrated I've been watching Tottenham. Because we offered nothing going forward. We didn't know we were ever going to score. I hope that will be different this game. Usually under Postecoglou, we offer something going forward. We tend to score in most games. We tend to offer something attacking. So I'd sort of change the lineup to go towards that. I'd be tempted to even go for the Maddison Bergvall midfield, and then, the 6 position there really is sort of a not a great options you've got there. I'd love to see Archie Gray in there, but this isn't the game to put him in there. It's too big a game, too important for him to just slot into there. But the rest of the team, a lot of it's going to have to be judgment calls from Postecoglou. does he think we're going to have the same Romero that started on the weekend? If he does, then I wouldn't start him. If he thinks he's come along quite a lot, he's a lot more sharper, he's had another week's training into him, then I would start him and I try and put Van de Ven next to him. I'd probably go for a Spence, and then I'd be reluctant to start Porro, although with the caveat that he is he's very attacking, and he can be, when he wants to be, effective going forward, and hopefully we won't do too much defending in this game. In terms of the front line,
Hopefully not.
Brennan Johnson, I can see Brennan Johnson starting again. Despite the fact I probably wouldn't go for him, I'd probably go for someone like maybe even Tell on the right, Slanky in the middle, and Son or Odegaard on the left. I'd personally go for something like that in the front line. I'd be tempted to put someone like Odegaard or Tell on the right, even if they're less confident there. Just because they'll offer something. They both of those players offer something going forward in terms of taking on their man and in terms of offering some sort of attacking intent. And this game is going to be solely made up of that. As I said before, the hope for me is that we don't tend to win games by narrow margins. So it should be a good game to go to. I've already got my ticket. It's one of the games I'm most looking forward to this season, I think.
Agreed.
Just because you know that there's going to be some sort of entertainment unless we don't score.
Yeah, we'll hype
We
this
do
up.
now.
Yeah, it's gonna be a boring 0-0, isn't it? Like that Milan
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
of course. Carl, as long as you win, don't care if it's boring or not. But I'm totally with you,
Yeah,
Alfie.
exactly.
Should be a good one. Lewis, what would your team be? You with Alfie that there has to be changes. I mean, we need to see a different response, don't we? Because we don't respond to defeats or draws.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw David Clark put his one there. He went for the free back. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I would not change the entire way we play just based off one game philosophy-wise. I would not completely just overhaul the formation just on a one-off in our biggest game of the season. But I mean, you can do whatever you want. I won't judge, but I mean, Satch wouldn't do that. I would probably go with Vicario. It's got to be Spence, Doggies, fullbacks. I kind of want to drop Danzo. I kind of do. I mean, if fit, you'd be probably a bit of a fool not to play Romero Van de Ven if you can do it, because I think I would. Danzo, I think I would like to say that midfield didn't help him at all on the weekend, but I just think he just wasn't that great. I think he's had quite a few games. Danzo's still just settling in. Not 100% sold on him yet, but I mean, he hasn't been bad. I would love to see Archer in the midfield. We've been hungry for it all season, but I would get behind the fact that it might be a bit of a risk, although it's his natural position. So I don't see why he couldn't perform in it. I don't see why he can't play well if that's his natural position. And if he's playing well as a fullback, as a centre back, as a left back, and God knows every position he's playing, it's not his own. I'm pretty sure he could handle it. So maybe I could play him there. I want to see Burville play. We have to see Burville Madison. I think Burville Burville gets stuck in challenges. He presses. I think he has a lot of the qualities that some of our midfielders don't have. So I would play Archie Gray, Burville, and Madison. I think that's our best midfield that we can play in this game. And one thing I would like to say, I don't know where Mikey Moore's been the last few weeks. I mean, I don't know what's happened.
Just going to ask you about that, actually.
Where is Mikey Moore? Because I mean, I don't know. I know this was a few months ago, but he was actually our best player when we played AZ Alkmaar last time at home. I'd firmly be behind the fact that for 15 minutes, I know Madison said before he had Neymar on the left wing. That's because we had Neymar on the left wing. He was tearing it up and he was phenomenal. So I want to know where he's been. But I would probably have to play Brennan Johnson on the right, just because I don't think Matthias Tell suits the right hand side, so I couldn't do it. So I would play Brennan Johnson, Slanky, and Son. But I mean, it is what it is, isn't it?
I wonder how far away Kulu is. Don't know.
I would love to play for this game. I would love it, but I mean, unfortunately, I think it was a fair trade deal, though. I mean, we got 3 players back for getting him. We got Romero Van de Ven and Solanke for Kulusevski. So we can't have all players come back and one not get injured. Yeah. So it was a fair trade deal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a good way of looking at it. Jack, what would be your lineup?
Vicario, Spence. It's very difficult. Van de Ven, Romero, Udogie, and then I'd go Basuma, unfortunately, Bergvall, Madison, and then Son, Solanke, and Odegaard. That's what I would go for.
Okay, nice. Thank you very much, Jack. Stay with you for score predictions. Kick us off then. I know you're little bit of nervousness creeping in.
Well, that's where my happy clapping gene will come through here. As much as I'm not confident, I don't predict Spurs to ever lose. I'll give you my honest thoughts of how I actually think about the game, but I am not going to predict Spurs to lose. I'll say we win this. Say we go 3-1. Say we go 3-1. Something around that lines. Just because if I were to imagine a win of some sort, you could see us coming out the gates very quickly. Hopefully, we come out the gates quickly, and and we don't concede like we have been recently straight away. And you put them under pressure. Let's say you go 2-0 up. AZ have to change their game plan. They have to change their shape. They're going to have to change things. And then by doing that, maybe then that opens up the gates a bit more for us to put more past them. So I'm going to say 3-1.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. Kick us off with a win. That's what we like. Alfie, are we going to win?
Yeah, I was going to go for the same as what Ted said, 3-1, but probably a lot less. Probably a lot less comfortable than Jack just said. I think it's going to be something like
easy peasy.
Yeah, I'd love it to be that easy, but I think it's going to be something like the scoring will go something like we'll go 2-0 up, and then they'll get one back, and we'll all panic, and then we'll finally get a win. That's what I'm hoping for, at least a bit of celebration, a bit of jubilation, something we need, just a relief, a release, and hopefully a next round, quarterfinal ticket booked. And the one thing I am looking out for is that you mentioned Bergwall there as well. I think a lot of them are bookings, and they could get banned for the quarterfinal. So I'm hoping that 3-1 with minimal bookings, please. That'd be great.
Good point.
Yeah, exactly. We want to, if we do get through, we want to have all as many players as we can. That's why it was silly from Bentancur. Totally unnecessary. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
When a player makes a mistake and then they get booked, it's just really annoying. But Lewis, what would your score prediction be?
I'll probably go for 2-0. I mean, although they dominated, they only scored from a fluky Bergvall goal. So I mean, I can see them sitting back, and I don't think we'll concede, because I think I can see them. I mean, if you're going to beat Ange, you need to sit back and play a low block. I think that's what they're going to do. I think it would be stupid to go out for it. But I think systems that play similar to the way we play into our hands because we can exploit the gaps they leave. So I'm pretty sure they would probably play a low block it. I would. So I mean, maybe do I would, but I think it'll be 2-0. I think it would be a really frustrating game from our point of view, that we just got the ball outside their box and just passing it, knocking them out, trying to wait for an opening. I think this could be a very long. It's going to take a lot of patience. We're going to be sitting there probably with the ball just in our half most of the game, just waiting. But I think once the first goes in, which will take a time, it will take a while, probably the second half, maybe really early second half. It's got to take a lot of patience. But I think once the first goes in, I think the confidence will be there, and I think we'll snatch a second.
Nice, love it. That's what you like. 3 wins. That's perfect. I agree with you. I think that we'll win. We won't make it easy for sure. I'm thinking we might, might need extra time. No, tell you what, we'll get it done in 90 minutes. I'll go with 3-1 as well. I think there'll be a few scares in there. I mean, Alfie mentions it there, nervous moments. I think there definitely will be that with Spurs. But fingers crossed we get over the line. I agree that their best chance is to sit back. But having said that, look at us defensively. Of course, Romero and Van der Ven being back could be different. But in recent weeks, we haven't looked like scoring, and we can't keep the ball out of our own net. So that we encourage Alkmaar for sure. But I think that does wrap us up nicely for this week's episode of the Scarfe Spurs Talk podcast. Thank you to everyone who's listened, whether it be live on YouTube and got involved. Thank you afterwards on a podcast platform. Appreciate you all. Make sure to check out our sponsor in the Kitman, and a massive thanks to my amazing panel tonight. Firstly, Lewis, thank you very much. Where can people find you across social media?
I said there, Romero 17th season. I mean, I might have said him a bit earlier, but I don't mean it that much. So still go over there and follow if you do, please. But I mean, I will always say this, that I'm not really active on there. But Scarfe Spurs Talk, I guess, might get the occasional post from me on there. So definitely be following that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Alfie, thank you very much for coming back on. Always great to have you on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's just the Twitter handle below, and then the rest of it is Instagram, Alfie Nicholson Journalism. I do like graphic design for some of Spurs players as well. If you check that out, match the graphics for them and journalism stuff. And then the same handle for Instagram, for TikTok as well. If you want to go and check that out.
Nice. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Alfie, Jack, very solid debut. It was never in doubt. Thank you. Very, Spurs debuts could be like that at the moment. We need performances like that. So thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you and talk to people about the wonderful Irish Hotspur?
Thanks for having me, Harry. Thanks for making our videos possible for these channel predictions. I know we put you through a lot, with having to make you predict these games week in, week out, and on such a regular basis. So that's the least I could do. I'd love to be back.
Good fun.
I would love to be back here. I had a good time. Really good questions, by the way, too. I thought you ran this very, very efficiently, and just good discussion all around. And pleasure to meet you guys, Lewis and Alfie. I'm alongside a more Irish version of myself, David Harris on the Irish Hotspur. And everybody, I did it a little late, but I'll make a few posts in the community section and stuff. Please, I would love to see, some people show some love over here because you've helped us out a ton this season, Harry.
Oh, thank you very much. I always do enjoy it. I mean, I very rarely get the prediction right, but it's always good fun to take part of the roller coaster that is Spurs. So no, it's always an honour. But as far as I'm concerned, you and anyone else is welcome back here anytime. So thank you very much.
Man.
It'd be great to get you and Dave on as well, both together.
Yeah, I'll get Dave over here.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you very much. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's listened. Hopefully next time you've been hearing from me, we're discussing hopefully an AZ Alkmaar win, and a Fulham win would be nice. But as long as we win in the Europa League, you have me happy. I don't think I'll regret to say that. So for now, a massive come on you Spurs.